Welcome back to another SPR Sports News Podcast. A whole bunch has gone on. We had the national championship game last night. We had divisional round of the NFL. Horrible play and some great moments. And then we have baseball. Is it ruined? Are the Dodgers just buying championships? And then finally, the UFC is back. We finally have fights after 6 long weeks, all coming up. First, we're starting it off right at the national championship game. I've been doing college football first. It's the last game. I know it just happened first. Like last night, I could go into the NFL, but we're going to start with this. Wow. What a story. What a story. If you didn't know, Indiana beat Miami, and I have a lot of things about it. I can probably rant a bunch against Miami, and I think I am going to do that. I think this is going to be a longer podcast. I think there's going to be a lot of rants, a lot of me going after everyone, especially ESPN, because their performance has been pathetic over the last month, and definitely with the college football playoffs. So I'm going to start with Indiana. Congratulations. Unbelievable story. People are saying, oh, but they bought this championship. They were the 4th highest payroll in college football. They were the 4th highest that made the playoffs. So look what happened. The top 4 all made the playoffs. And one of those teams that was above them was Miami. Miami paid a very pretty penny to be there. And I actually have the exact numbers here. So Ohio State paid $35 million. Miami paid $24.4 million. Texas Tech paid $28 million. Texas Longhorns about $23 million. So actually the 5th lowest was Indiana at $21.1 million. So Miami was the 3rd and Indiana was the 5th. And Miami paid about about $3.3 million more dollars than you had with Indiana. So saying that they bought the championship is kind of wrong, because all the other teams, actually Texas Longhorns didn't even make it. That's funny. But Ohio State, $35 million, lost. Texas Tech, lost. Texas Longhorns didn't make it. Honestly, probably should over of Alabama. And Indiana, perfect season. Miami, fraudulent losses. Couple weird decisions to get them in, but they got in. They performed well when it came to the postseason. I got to give them credit. Miami, great postseason. I can't say great regular season because, to be honest, maybe you shouldn't have been in. Maybe you should have been in. All that. You did put it to bed with getting to second place. Thing is, the whole issue was you guys rubbing it in the face of Notre Dame. This is where Notre Dame gets to rub it back into your face. You guys got second place. Notre Dame did last year. You guys spent $24.4 million to get to second place. Notre Dame spent under $15 million last year and got to second place. Quite a bit of difference. We lost to Ohio State, which you guys ended up beating. You guys lost to Indiana. Indiana's last loss was in the college football playoffs last year to Notre Dame. So we have that against each other. We had one loss and was for sure in the playoffs. No ifs, ands, or buts last year. There was no questions, nothing. You guys had a lot of stipulations and issues if you guys were even going to be in. ESPN had to basically keep talking and pushing the agenda of getting you in to get you in. And that's one of the big issues. They're promoting really bad with ESPN. So you guys maybe shouldn't have been in. Maybe it was Notre Dame. Maybe it was Texas. Who knows? But regardless, you still got in. So if anything, the pay gap between Ohio State and Notre Dame, and us losing to Ohio State, and then Miami being a higher pay grade than Indiana and losing, and having 2 losses on a year, and being very questionable if they should even be in. Let's be honest. I think Notre Dame wins that battle. Congratulations. You got second place, just like Notre Dame. Congratulations, you overspent like a motherfucker to get second place. Good. Notre Dame didn't overspend. They didn't. And we were like towards like the 10th or 11th team when it came to payroll last year. And this year was the same thing. I think this next coming year, I think Notre Dame will be one of the top 5 or 6 highest payrolls, in my opinion. They will be up there, which I won't have that as an excuse next year. But so with Miami, with all the rivalry with Notre Dame and in Miami, that rivalry is very alive right now. And next year, I do believe they play each other, which is going to be massive. I wonder what happens with Miami if they get as good as a class as last year, because quite a few of these guys are going to go into the draft. There's quite a few seniors. Carson Beck's gone. But regardless, the rivalry will be very much alive going into next year. Back to Indiana. We need to talk about the story of Indiana. So Indiana has the most losses in college football history. They have 692 losses. And their adjusted record is 691. 127 seasons of college football. Before Cignetti became their head coach, they only had one winning season in the last 15 seasons. And that was two, if you want to count COVID. COVID was only 8 games. So 6-2, and they had an 8-5. 8-5 was a legit season, 2019, and then 6-2 in the COVID season. You could count it if you want. I really didn't count COVID anything, even baseball, just because everything was shortened significantly. Football still got their games, so I'll give football their credit. Like, when it comes to NBA, college football, MLB, I just don't count their championships because it was very goofy, the whole scenario. So 2020, okay, so if you want to count that, 2 in the last 15. There was 19 and 20. Then in 21, 22, and 23, they went 2-10, 8-4, and 3-9. Then Coach Cignetti came to them, and they immediately went 11-2. And they won 8-1 in their conference. The previous year, they were 1-8 in their conference. Completely flipped the conference. They made it to the college football playoffs, which they lost a good game to Notre Dame. Then, this next year, they go 16-0. They go from the worst team in college football history to having the best perfect season ever. You could say the 2019 basically Bengals, because Jamar Chase and Joe Burrows, but you had Justin Jefferson on that team and then quite a few others. But it was the LSU Tigers, but they weren't 16 games. It was the top 4 teams. They didn't do 3 rounds. So I think they went 15-0. Still, unbelievable. 16-0, had the Heisman winner, Coach of the Year, perfect season, and had the lower payroll when it came to playing Ohio State, and they beat Ohio State, and they ended up beating Miami for the championship. So, unbelievable job. Incredible story. Coach Cignetti, even afterwards, he talked about quite a few years ago, he was waxing tables on Thanksgiving. And if you asked him, could he believe he would be right here, right now, he wouldn't have believed it. And that's insane. This man, not too crazy long ago, maybe 10 years ago at most, he's an older gentleman, was waxing tables and on Thanksgiving Day working, and now he possibly has the craziest story that probably could be a movie in college football history. Yes, does the NIL make a point with this? Of course, it does. More kids are willing to go up north and play in the cold more often than play in the warm weather down the SEC. Yeah, recruiting class versus now the Big Ten gets to pay. Yeah, it does make a difference. But guess what? The SEC teams have all this money too. They're not spending it. Remember I said that. because we're going to get into baseball later with the Dodgers. They have the money, they're just not willing to spend it. So that's where, and some did. Texas Longhorns did. They had a really bad start to middle of the season. They ended off incredible, but still, back to this. Mendoza, going to be number one pick, going to Vegas. Unbelievable 4th and 5 play in the third quarter. Was it third or fourth? What, I think it was the end of the third quarter. 4th and 5. They go for it. He runs the ball on like it looked like a design draw play. And he runs it. He gets the first down from he started running at the 15-yard line, behind the line of scrimmage, got to the first down, 3 yards from the goal line, jumps in the air, dives, gets hit by 2 people, touchdown. Unbelievable play. The picture, the side view picture, I already saved it on my phone, is one of those that will be plastered all over Indiana for many years to come. Mendoza and Coach Cignetti need statues at Indiana immediately. That program completely changed around. I do believe Notre Dame should try to play a game against them each year, because now there's a Battle of Indiana, because South Bend, Indiana, and Indiana Hoosiers. That should be happening, in my opinion, because if they're not in a conference, they should try to schedule that game each year. Like, you have Michigan State, you have all these big rivalry in-state things. Why not have Indiana versus Notre Dame? I know you could say Purdue also, but Purdue's not as big as those two colleges right this moment. But, man, unbelievable performance. Great game. It really was. I will say there's a couple things about the game. Here comes my ranting stuff. But first, let me say once again, congratulations, Indiana. Unbelievable season. Even congratulations, Miami. Incredible season. So now here comes the rants. First, they had to let the refs keep flags in their pockets. If you look at the fourth quarter, every single second, third, or fourth down that was a passing play for Indiana, there was holds or pass interferences by the Miami DBs. They were exhausted. They were done. But they never threw the flag. But they were consistent. They didn't throw the flag either side. So I will say there's a difference when last week I talked about a play and you said, hey, you took everything away, is this pass interference? And the answer is yes, then it should be called. Same thing with this game. There should have been a lot more pass interferences called, but they basically said, hey, you're going to keep the flags in your pockets throughout this game. There was a play that they hit Mendoza under the chin. Clear as day, he lunged upwards to make sure he hit him in the head. That's a clear targeting. I know targeting's on wide receivers, but still, you know that what that hit was intended to do. That hit was intended to try to take out the QB. Clear as day. That was in the second quarter. Possibly first, but I think it was second. But then it will go back to fourth quarter. I understand Miami was running the ball extremely well, and Indiana wasn't really stopping them. So when it came to, oh yeah, but they couldn't stop Miami anyway. It's like, yeah, but it should have been score very easily, because Miami was just pass interference or holding every fucking play defensively. Their DBs couldn't do anything. But the thing is, their wide receivers were still breaking off and catching these balls that were insane. These were NFL-type wide receiver plays. So very impressed by the wide receivers of Indiana on that. And I understand why they told them to hold it in their pocket. If they allowed the flags to fly throughout the game, Miami would have got torched. They would have. Miami, at points and times, were getting to the QB. They were getting to the QB more often when the holding of the receivers was happening. And that was making it to where Mendoza had to wait longer. Issue is, if they did throw the flags, those flags would happen, first down, they would have to lay off of them, and now these wide receivers are going to break wide open, and there's going to be a lot more scoring for Indiana, and this game would have been a blowout, possibly in the first half. It was still 10-0 at halftime, and that was with Miami just not getting called for anything. Going after the QB, some holding pass interferences calls that should have been called, and it was still 10-0. The second half, the run game really got going for Miami, and that really kept them in the game. Some big runs by their running backs. Great job there. Carson Beck made one or two good throws. Obviously, he made one really bad throw, pulling an old-fashioned Carson Beck. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about another topic that I'm really not a fan of. ESPN has been pushing Miami. They have done everything wrong with Miami. Who owns ESPN currently? Give you guys a second to think of that. The answer is Disney. You know what Disney is, right? Disney was started with Disney World and then Disneyland. Started in Orlando, Florida. Then went to LA. Disneyland, LA and land. Disney World, ORL, Orlando and World. That's how you remember it. That's how it started. Then came the Disney Channel. Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Goofy, Minnie Mouse, Daisy Duck, etc. And it became this big empire. And then it bought stuff and bought more stuff and bought more stuff. Now it owns everything from Epic and Fortnite to ESPN. It owns everything. The Marvel, it got Star Wars. It got everything. But at the end of the day, they have stayed their same way with their culture, which is that they're going to keep it kid-friendly. They get into the politics a little too much, but at the same point, whatever. They're trying to be politically correct and keep their stocks as high as they are and go from $1 million company to $1 billion company to borderline $8 trillion company. That's what they do. They print money, for God's sake. So, with Miami, they're promoting a school, and they just constantly promoting them out to kazoo that may or may not should have been there. And then the first college playoff game happens. And they show this girl. Cameraman found this girl. They're supposed to, I'm just going to let you know before I tell you who she is and what happens. With these cameramen, they tell them to find celebrities. And they give them celebrities that could be at the game. They know who has tickets, so they try to find them. This isn't a surprise. They know these people are supposed to be at this game. So they're looking for them. It's not like, oh, I accidentally found this person. They know they're at this game. And then the network gets to know about it. And they try to show cameras of them. They try to show cameras of random people too. Random reactions. They do that. But they definitely try to hit the celebrities and the bigger name people. In Miami, there is this girl that was wearing a really short white shirt, really tight, nipples poking through. Bella Danger is her name. She is a porn star. She is a very big named porn star. Very vocal about her profession. I don't want to go into this stuff. I'd prefer not to. I want this to be all about sports. But this is going towards my rant towards ESPN and telling you how shit of a job they are doing. And I'm going to go even more into ESPN. And then I'll get back into the sports itself. So I am sorry. If you don't like this stuff, please skip like 10 minutes forward because I have 2 back-to-back rants on ESPN. Skip 10 minutes forward, and I'll be probably into NFL at that point. But Bella Danger, porn star, booty shorts, little crop top, nipples poking through shirt, and she's there at the game. Goes every picture, meme, anything posted blows up like wildfire. Guess what? That makes money. That makes headlines. That makes attention. Guess what? ESPN is known for keep talking and keep showing the people that will make headlines. Stephen A. Smith has talked about it, why he talks, because a couple years ago, Cam Newton came on there. I'm jumping over to just explain this, why they're showing her. Cam Newton, a couple years ago, was like, why do we keep talking about the Dallas Cowboys? They suck. Why are we talking about the Lakers? They're not doing good right now. And he was saying that on air, on First Take. And then on his own show, 4th and 1, he still went at it. And he's like, I still don't understand. It's like, let's talk about the teams that are doing good. Let's talk about this random team. Like, they should have been talking about Indiana all year. Instead, they're talking more about Miami than Indiana. Well, they're not the big name. Miami's a big name. Miami's a big city. It's fun. It's sexy. It's what people want to hear and see. Guess what? Here we go. Stephen A. Smith said on a podcast and to Cam Newton right there, is like, hey, these are the guys that these topics get views. People want to hear about these topics. So we're talking about them. That's how he did it in a short version on the show so he could keep the show going. Then he broke it down either on a podcast or his own podcast or a different podcast. I cannot reference 100% where it is, but he basically broke it down more why they talk about Dallas, where he wouldn't mind talking about these other things, but this is what people care about. So guess what? People love seeing the celebrities, and ESPN is about views. It's about making money. It's not about talking about Indiana all year, talking about how good they are. It's not talking about like the dark horse of Seattle Seahawks and stuff like that. No, it's better talking about LA Rams than Seattle. Even though Seattle's not a dark horse anymore, they're the favorite. But still, they talk more about LA Rams and talk more about New England than they did talk about Denver Broncos, talked about the Seattle Seahawks. The 1 seeds were not talked about much. It's just how it is. New England Patriots pull more money. The LA Rams pull more money. Does it make sense? I think so. Now we get into Taylor Swift. Pulls a shit ton of money. An obnoxious amount of money. I have no problem them showing a Taylor Swift on ESPN or Disney. Guess what? Because she's appropriate for children. She sings songs about relationships. She has no allegations against her. No Epstein bullshit. No pornography. No anything. Even though pornography is not illegal. It isn't. But pushing professional porn actors and actresses on a station owned by Disney is pushing it to kids at the end of the day. And ESPN saw a Bella Danger. All right, maybe one cameraman did find her one time. And everyone's like, oh, the cameraman. They know she's there. People need to understand that. They know what actors and actresses have signed things. What famous people have bought tickets. Now they're looking for them. They tell the cameramen to look for them. They found her. Great. They saw the numbers. That first time might have been the only accident. But what happened last night at the national championship where they showed her 3 to 5 times was not an accident. It was not. They knew, and they kept showing her. Guess what? Because it makes a lot of money. It was a big talking point. And guess what? It's a big talking point now. Now I'm talking about it, and I don't want to. But at the same point, I don't stand for the whole children being pushed to sexuality. Just in general. Disney is for children. And we're pushing a porn star, showing her constantly. What if a kid that has technology, which all kids have technology at fucking 5 years old now. I was outside throwing a baseball. I didn't have a phone, and it was a really shitty phone that didn't have internet on it until I was 12 years old. Just saying. Not until I was in middle school. So that's the case with me. But these kids at 5 years old have technology with internet. Oh, you parent block. You can't parent block everything. You just can't. Guess what? Because you can look up a name and it might not be blocked. But there's like, oh, who is this girl? And then all of a sudden Google will pull up who she is. Now they know what. Oh, they're showing whatever. What is this mommy or daddy at 5 years old? 8 years old, whatever. I'm sorry. 8-year-olds don't watch porn. I know the 5 might be too young, but 8, you still don't. You just don't. I didn't have internet on a phone until I was 12 years old. This is insane. Then ESPN is promoting her left, right, and center. The first game, when they were playing Texas A&M, might have been a mistake. It was not a mistake last night at the national championship. It was consistent, They're doing it like they would do Taylor Swift. There's nothing wrong with doing it with Taylor Swift. There's something wrong with doing it with a porn star, man or woman, because you're owned by Disney. If you were a sports network and had no affiliation with Disney, whatever. I'd still be upset with you. But Disney is for children. This is sick. It is absolutely sick. All right, my next rant on ESPN. Over the last 10 days, we have lost Mike Tomlin off the Steelers. He is no longer a Steeler.